there's a sort of a couple minutes left, so I guess I'll just start. If they don't type. Oh yeah, sorry. My typing's super loud, so if I'm typing, I'll actually mute my microphone. Apologize about that. So my name's John Leishman. I'm actually working with a bookkeeper who wants to just provide a bit of background, I guess. So I run a technology business. I've also built an application that automates bookkeeping, and I'm working with a bookkeeper to help. I'm actually doing a joint venture with her because she's a traditional bookkeeper and does it traditional in the sense that she gets all the paper from the clients and manually enters it. And she's got, I think, 7 full-time staff, so she's pretty busy. And she sees the value in leveraging technology to increase her profit margins. So we're actually doing a joint venture together. And so that's why I'm interested in all this value pricing. And we actually tried to convert her firm over, but people were just too stuck in their ways of doing things. So we're actually creating a separate company. So that's a little bit about me. Sorry, was someone going to try and say something there? So that is my story, and it is now 1 minute after. So I'm just going to start then with how I've done the cloud pricing software. And I think what I tried to do is really, oh, wait a second, let me share my screen. That might be a good start, I guess, eh? Sorry, there's just a little pop-up menu on my screen here. All right. Oh, I have a bit of an echo. Sorry. Give me a sec here. I've got an external microphone and speakers, so maybe there's a bit of I forget what the word is. Does this sound all right? So I'll just start working at this, and then I'm recording this session so that if people want to see this later on. I made a big error. I did with Michelle and Miriam a couple weeks ago, and I forgot to record it. And that was to do with app pricing. So what I've done is I took, myself and my partner took a client who, I call them annual bookkeepers. So they just come in once a year. They've got all their bank and credit card statements. They're not organized enough to have their source documents, and the bookkeeping's done from their bank and credit card statements. And traditionally, in the last couple of years, they've been charged about $6,000, so about $500 a month. And so we want to get them moved on to QuickBooks Online and give them real-time reporting and increase the price, obviously, as per Mark, how Mark is always telling us to do this. So what I've done is I've left the default types of businesses the way they were. And for me, excuse me, what's really important is the banding. So for me, banding isn't just whether it's AR, AP, or bank or credit card transactions. For me, it's anytime we have to enter a transaction into an accounting system. So if I have to enter in an AR invoice, that's one transaction. If I have to enter in an AP transaction, that's one. If I have to enter in an AP transaction, that's one transaction. If I have to apply a payment, that's one transaction. And then if I have to do a reconciliation, that's one transaction. So in theory, there could be, for one AR invoice, there could be 3 transactions. That's how I'm looking at the bandings and leveraging. I call them transactions is how I call them. I know Mark calls them, I forget what he calls them, but he just does the AR side. And I find most of my clients are already doing their sales, usually with some sort of industry-specific software. Like if you're a chiropractor, for example, you're usually using a very specific chiropractic software to run your practice. Same for dentists, same if you have a massage place or a coffee shop or what have you. So I just sort of made this up based on the spreadsheet I had here. So based on some rough estimates on how long it took us to do some work for various clients. And then what I did is, in my world, we have two clients, one where we code from source documents and one where we code just from bank and credit card statements because the client's not organized enough to actually have all the source documents. And these pricing, like I already got a comment from Michelle saying like this price is super low, but when I actually go through Mark's software, this price actually rises up to like $250 because what I do is I've stripped out everything we have included in the past and made it as an add-on. So I'll get to that in a second. So, and I'm playing around with these numbers. So I said, look, if you're just going to be coding from bank and credit card transactions, it's going to be 66% of this. And then we go through the software. And I haven't actually built in this, I'm not sure what we're going to call it, percentage. This month, it'd be a negative multiplier, I guess is what it would be. So I haven't actually done that yet. So let me just go through this. So for me, it's important to just get the banding right to begin with, and then everything can sort of flow from there. So when I do the banding, it's, hey, let's just do the transactions, and then in Canada we got ITCs or input tax credits. That's extra. Workers' compensation board filings extra. Report, like everything's extra. This is just to do the bookkeeping, and then we can hopefully add on to the price and the client can see the value. And this is just a company I saw. They don't have their prices online anymore, but they're really successful. They have about 16 bookkeepers working for them. They're based out of Vancouver. And in his pricing, he included everything. So WCB filings, sales tax filings, payroll, the whole works for a set price. And he based it on volume of transactions. And I liked that sort of logic. So I borrowed or stole, I guess, some ideas from him. And that's how I came up with my bandings. So here's my bandings for my base prices. It's the same as that's in the Google spreadsheet right here. And I'm just so just to paraphrase, I've looked at an existing client. I've looked at how much we've charged them over the last 2 years, and then I've looked at what competing companies have charged. And then I've tried to come up with a banding pricing to start with, and then I've stripped out all the extras, which I'll add on as part of the presentation to the client. Behavior reward, yeah. Okay. Sorry, I'll try and look at the chat window every now and then. It's just, it's hard for me to look at my own screen plus the chat window. So, from what I've seen from other folks, and I'll just scroll up here, is in Canada anyways, if you are doing less than 30,000 in revenue a year, you don't have to capture input tax credits or tax credits for GST. But that's like 1% of the businesses, and usually you recommend that all businesses, or I would anyways, they would capture the GST. So as a default, I say, hey, we're going to add 10% to whatever the base price is for capturing those taxes. In the US, you don't have to worry about that. You simply expense it or you add it to the individual line item cost. And then I've tried to keep my my settings super simple, just to make it easy for me to understand, to get up and running with the software. So I said, for the number of bank accounts, we're going to charge you $50 a month. So if you have 2 bank accounts, we're going to charge you an extra $100 a month. The same for credit cards, the same for an online merchant account, whether it's PayPal or Stripe or whatever it might be. And then I said, if you can do foreign transactions, we're going to charge you an extra $50 a month. And then monthly payroll journals, an extra $50 a month. I've shied away from percentage increases in my monthly adjusters because it has such a huge multiplier effect on the price. And in my own simple mind, I was just trying to understand, you know, how much time does it take to do this, which I know you're supposed to try and get out of that mindset, but I'm just trying to start with at a starting place. So for me, it's like, hey, you know, ballpark, every extra bank account's at least $50, which is sort of an hour's worth of work per month for the extra bank accounts. You have to count in the reconciliations as well. And then monthly adjusters, or these are annual adjusters. So foreign currency transactions if they're assets. So if you have bought assets in the US or elsewhere, for example, you need to make some annual adjustments. I said inactive bank accounts, inactive credit card accounts, inactive PayPal accounts. Again, I've tried to keep this pretty simple, and I just said an extra $100 per year to take care of those. And then when it came to expressing price, I said the minimum I'm going to charge is $150 a month, and the maximum, well, $19,000 a month. Like, I don't think anyone's, it'd be great to get a client like that, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. And then I paid for the light level because I know that when I try and convert my clients from how they've been normally paying, like an hourly rate, to a value price billing, they're not gonna like the bigger price. So I'm gonna have the light price in there to decrease the sticker shock when I first express the price. And I said, look, let's just display it monthly. I toyed with making it weekly, but I think I'm just going to stick to monthly, again, just to keep it simple for me, and paid over 12 months. And then I'm using the banding pricing model. So that simply gets back to the price settings. I'm using banding as my base, and after the base, then I'm going to have my add-ons. My extra monthly components I'm going to add on. And that was that. And then I've got my behavior reward. So again, what I'm trying to do is just keep it super simple for myself. So for me, I'm happy to give a percentage discount if all the overseas expenses are on a credit card, and if there's no personal expenses. And I kept the percentages pretty low because cumulatively this has a bigger impact on the price. And again, my goal is to increase the price to the client at least 10 to 40% over what they've paid in the past. So we use a product called entermyinvoice.com. So we're saying, hey, look, if you're going to use entermyinvoice.com to send all your invoices and pictures of receipts to, then we'll give you a discount. And then if you're going to go to QuickBooks Online, then we're going to give you a percentage discount for being on a web-based accounting platform. Now, if we were to convert a client from QB Desktop to QuickBooks Online, then we'd have, as Mark talks about, we'd have a one-time fee, or say an annual monthly fee to do that conversion. But I don't want to get into that in this particular discussion. I simply want to go over setting up the product so that it makes sense to me, and hopefully it'll make sense to some of you folks as well. Yeah, banding prices. So is Derek saying the banding? Yeah, so I agree. So that's why I sort of started with that. And then also, before I forget about this Google spreadsheet's available to anyone. So you guys can always add in, whatever banding you want and whatever you're going to put as your pricing. And I think if you share that information with everyone, then that will help us all be more accurate in our pricing. So I think a lot of us are held back with fear, like, oh my gosh, what if I do the pricing and it comes out 20% less, or it comes out like 400% more? If we can share a bit of information, it might help us at least get up and running, at least try out with a couple guinea pig clients. So I'd encourage you to quickly enter that in. If you need any help, let me know. It's a Google spreadsheet. It's super easy to use. So that's the behavior rewards, and I put this in place because I know that my clients are going to fall off their chair when they get the price, and so I'm probably going to go right to the optional extras and say, hey, you know what? I know I've quoted you 100% more than what you've paid last year, but here's how we can reduce the price. We're going to start putting in these things, and this will help reduce your price down. And then as you click the check boxes, obviously the price gets reduced. So optional extras. So this is, as Mark's talked about, this is all based on an annual basis. So I've just put in some things, again, that are pretty simple, like monthly cash flow forecasting. We would use an add-on tool for that. Unlimited remote screen sharing and support. So this is basically just support for, QBO or QB Desktop, or even it could be scanning, like we're training our clients on how to scan things properly so that we don't have to scan the paperwork. So that ends up being like $50 a month, right? 600 divided by 12. Quarterly cash flow forecasting. So I've just got a couple different things in here that I've added that some of our clients have requested. And then automated, so I'm going to get rid of this because it doesn't make sense. And then we have to submit sales tax at varying intervals depending on the volume of sales of the client. So I simply have just put in different, I've simply, in the past, for that $500 a month, we would do the sales tax remittance annually. And now I'm saying, hey, you know what, just for the bookkeeping, it's going to be X price. If you want us to do the sales tax remittance, then it's going to be an additional add-on. So again, it's bringing to attention the value to the client of us actually doing the sales tax remittance. And I simply have different prices based on how often they have to file. Workers' Compensation Board, I'm not sure what it's called in the US, but it's basically, you know, if someone gets hurt on the workplace, then excuse me, this is something that employers have to pay into. And again, this has to be filed at varying intervals. I just put annual for right now. And so if they want us to file that, then there's going to be an annual price. And so this, and then I get down to app add-ons. So I did a webinar with Michelle and Miriam and I think Matt actually a couple of weeks ago, and we came up with some ideas on how to price apps. So when I price an app, what I'm going to do, actually we just won a contract. So we submitted to a client that she's on stage 50 and she wanted to go to QuickBooks Online because her husband's out in the field. He's doing estimates for some sort of excavating work. So what we did is we did a quote for $300 just to assess what apps they should be using, and that's about 3 hours worth of work. And we use a Google spreadsheet, which I shared in that presentation I did a couple weeks ago. And so we're going to do all that work for $300, and then her and her husband are going to they're going to pick one based on the criteria that we've selected. And then what I wanted to do is I wanted to say, hey, look, you've picked XYZ app for managing your construction business, and that's a simple one. So we can manage the integration between that and QBO for $25 per user per month, and that will include the construction app costs as well as training, as well as keeping on track of on top of any new features that are brought out by the construction management app, as well as any new features brought out by QuickBooks Online that can help you give more information to make better decisions. And they can choose whether to, you know, have this or not, or simply pay for the app themselves. And so I had one called Simple App add-on, and I use time tracking in this example. Oops. And then I have complex app for time tracking, so that might be more. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to really settle on 3. So after we've gone through the process for this client, those will be the 3 construction apps we recommend to all our construction clients. But we're still going to charge $300 to do the analysis for the client, because you still have to understand what their needs are. And again, we do that through a Skype screen share, and then we record it. So I'm sort of digressing a little bit, and I see that they're yeah, clients. Absolutely, yeah. So I think the nice thing about this software is you can say, hey, you know what? You said there'd be no personal expenses, so I have to redo the quote for you. So let me just read the rest of Laura's. Yeah. Okay, so I think if the client had a bunch of personal expenses, I'd simply redo the quote and say, hey, you know what? Let me go back. Sorry, let me go back here. So behavior rewards. So I would go back. No, let me do the quote. Hold on a second. And we'll go through an example. So I just got a client, and they are currently paying $500 a month, so they're done annually. So this is sort of the example I'm using. We have to, for all our clients, we have to capture the sales tax. He does have some foreign transactions. He does not have any foreign assets. He's got 2 credit cards, and he's got 2 bank accounts, and I'm just going to put him in professional services. They're actually, they manage concerts, actually. That's what they do. Monthly payroll, yes. Okay, so this is where I click on the little magic tool, and then this is where the client falls over off his chair gasping for oxygen because he's paying $500 a month and the premium level is like $2,000, right? So in what I'm planning to do is this is excuse me, this is going to be part of my strategy, is hit them with the super high price and then click on the light feature so I can bring in something that this is still double what they're currently paying. So I'm going to pick them up off the ground, and then I'm going to put them back in their chair, and I'm going to say, all right, well, there's some things you can do to make our job a little bit easier, so we can come down to a price that's more in line with what you're currently paying. And I said, and Mr. Customer, here's the other thing. Right now, you're getting your bookkeeping done annually. What we want to do is convert you to getting real-time reporting. So once you're on QuickBooks Online, which would be a different quote, you can basically from your mobile device see how your business is doing, see what outstanding AP there is. You can do AR invoicing. You'll have a lot more flexibility and insight into your business, and we can help you with reporting if you're interested in something like that. So I would sell them on a real-time information system, and a couple of the partners are young, so they are interested in that, and I'm hoping that with the increased price that they're willing to pay for better reporting and better metrics so they understand how their business is doing. If anyone wants to say anything, feel free to interrupt me. So I'll just keep going here. So there's the fixed price. So now the client's fallen off the chair. So I'm going to go to options. So now I've got my prices here. I think as a default, I'm going to check this because I think it's worthwhile that all my, I don't want to get any paper. So I'm going to pay for this subscription. I'm simply going to say, look, we're going to put you on this. We're going to pay for it. If you adhere to this policy of everything being emailed to this unique email address we'll give you, then you're going to save some money here. If we get you onto QuickBooks Online so you can run your business from your mobile device, which I think you want to do, well, you're going to save you a few more bucks. No more personal expenses. I went from $911 to $865. So that's roughly about 50 bucks. So if you include personal expenses, that's going to cost you $600 next year, just so they understand the implications, and it's all spelled out in the quote, right? This client has he puts everything on his credit card anyways, all his foreign transactions, so I feel pretty confident that we can give him this. All right, so now we're down to $822 just for the light level. This is just to do his bookkeeping. It's not to do anything else. Now keep in mind he's already paying $500, so this is $322 more than what he's currently paying. So if he's okay with that, then I'm going to go to this. Oops, hold on a second. Select the package to continue. Sorry. So if he's okay with that, then I'm going to say, hey, look, here's what we're going to do. And we got our monthly price here. I'm going to say, we'll do your sales tax annually. And hopefully they're going to say yes. And then the price is going to change. It's going to go up another 50 bucks, which is another $600 a year. I know they want this done, so Workers' Compensation Board. So now the price is going up to $872. It's not going up by huge amounts, but if you multiply those small amounts by 12, it's like $500-600, which is pretty good for us on an annual basis. And then I know he's got a huge problem with time tracking. He can have up to 50 contractors working for him at a concert, and it's a huge nightmare for him to keep track of all the hours because people email them in, then it goes in an Excel spreadsheet, and then everyone cuts checks. So I'm going to try and pitch him on using T-sheets or something like this, and I would simply say simple add-on. Oh, I might have sorry, I might have broken the software because I haven't done it properly. Sorry about that. So the optional extras, unit price. So I've messed up somehow. So this unit price is based on the precise number, I believe, and that's where I sort of messed up. Or it's based on actually, maybe it's a specific value question. I can't remember. Maybe someone who's listening sort of knows. But what I want to basically do is is say, hey, we can provide that time tracking application for you, and it's going to be based on a monthly fee by the number of users. And I'll have to work out some way of, because he's scaling up and down. I didn't enter a number in the first screen. There you go. Oh, in the first screen in the quote. Got it. So I think it's supposed to be this one, right, Sarah? This is the precise number field. Anyways, I'll figure it out later on, but I just wanted to get the point around. That affects the unit pricing. Yeah, so I'll change this to say, I would change this to say number of users, because it could be staff or contractors. That's how, yeah, thank you, Sarah. That's what I would put, is number of users. So I would change this to be number of users, and then I put in a number here. So if he has like 25 staff, then it'll simply spit out a number. And then I simply point out to the client that, hey, you know what, it's taking you, 20 hours a month or 30 hours a month. Your internal cost is $30 an hour. And I went over this in the presentation a couple of weeks ago, that there's an internal cost of $600 a month for you to do to track the time right now. In our application, and maybe I made the price too expensive. I just put in some numbers like $25 a user. Maybe it's only going to be $5 a user. Maybe it's going to be $10 a user. So if they have 20 staff, then there'd be an extra $200 a month added onto their quote. But they would also get the app included, like T-sheets, for example. So they would gain more time for their clients. And that'd be a way that I can try and increase my revenue, because in my customization, oh, I'm already in the fixed price, sorry. So when I click on this, it'll add on, 20, say $10 times the number of users, $20 a month. The problem with this client, of course, is they're fluctuating every month. So what I'd probably do is, there's just going to be a little bit of manual work to, I guess, add on to his bill for the number of users. And, I might even hook into the API from T-sheets to figure out what that is. And I don't know, maybe there's some way I can automate it in some way by hooking into T-sheets API, or generating a CSV file and importing it somewhere into QuickBooks Online to slightly customize his monthly quote. Or maybe I'll do a monthly invoice for the base price and then another invoice for the users or something like that, to keep them a little bit separate. But the goal here really is to make an extra $5 to $10 per month per user for managing the apps as well as the training. And in my company, we do lots of internal videos. Like I just had, I was talking with someone, or maybe it's on Facebook, but we use Screencast-O-Matic, and it's super easy to record quick videos. And then our staff, we have YouTube channels, so our staff just do videos and upload them to our YouTube channel. And so, like James, one of my staff members, just did one on how to scan really efficiently, and some metrics around some clients where we've done scanning and what's made the scanning process faster, what's slowed it down, so we can understand for other people that are doing scanning, so they can understand what's going to slow them down, how to set things up properly. So we've got, oh, you can't see it here, but we use videos all the time because it's a super efficient way to transmit information amongst our staff. So all my staff have that screen capture software, and then we have our own YouTube channel, and then in YouTube you can have videos that are either unlisted, public, or private. So all the internal videos are unlisted, and then any videos that need to be public are public. So I've gone over sort of how I do things, and I think that someone mentioned, oh, Camtasia. Yeah, so Michelle asked about Camtasia. So the reason I haven't used, like, I bought Camtasia, I think it's like $100 or $150 or whatever it is that Camtasia is a full-fledged video editing application. So it's super sophisticated, and in my life I try and keep things super simple. So like in this software, for example, let's just see back. So I'm not sure if you can see this, but hopefully you can. But down in here, I only have a couple buttons I got to play with. It's like record. I set the resolution to what it needs to be, and then it's done. Like there's only a couple buttons, which makes it super easy for me. And then we save the video and then we upload it. The other thing I do is I don't, how do I get rid of this? The other thing I do is we don't worry about being perfect. It's this problem my staff have. They say or ah, and they worry that, you know, someone's going to think, they're going to worry what other people think about them. And I tell them not to worry about the important thing is just to get the information up there. So Michelle is just saying an add-on tool for cash flow forecasting. I don't have a tool that I'd recommend right now. Really what I wanted to do is just focus on, I just wanted to focus on the banding and just share ideas with folks on the banding. And then I also wanted just to go over how we use the software, because in that particular example with my client, like already out of the gate, he's going from $500 a month to $800 a month without even any of the real add-ons. So I think my strategy is going to be, they're all going to get sticker shock no matter what. Then I'm going to try and make them feel a little bit better by having some control over their price. That's going to be the next strategy, to make them feel a little bit better. And then my next strategy is going to be, okay, well, now you feel a little bit better, you have to pay some more. What are some of the things you really want done? Like, you know, I've got some things here. I would probably change these based on my discussion with the client before we even do the price, because whenever I do a meeting with a client, I do a Skype session, and I have them go over their current workflows. So how does data come into their company? How does data get entered into the accounting system? What reporting do they want to see? And we use Skype, and then we use a plugin called the Veyer, which then records that session, and then I can review it later on to do research. If I need to do research on specific reporting apps or add-ons that the client might be potentially interested in, the video really helps me take a look at how he's currently doing things and come up with better solutions. And actually, more importantly, what it's great for is I don't actually do any of that research. I give it to my staff. So, okay, I'll get to it in a second, Michelle. The video recording is great for my staff because they can look at the video, they can see it all, and then they can do that research, and they don't need to ask me any questions because all the information's in that particular video. So I'll quickly get it for you right now. So it's eVayer. So it's like $20, right? I think it's $20. So I use this just because, I mean, I could use GoToMeeting as well. I use Skype just because everyone seems to have Skype, and also once I've added them on Skype, I can always ask them questions down the road. Like, it's just an easy way to get to communicate with people in real time. There's a whole whack of different tools. We use a number of them. So that's, I'll just put it in the chat here. So let's just.
Don?
Yep.
It's Michelle.
Hey there, Michelle.
Hi. Hey, I know that the big impetus is to go to like QBO and bank feeds and to expedite and automate the whole process and everything, but the clients I work with, that doesn't really work that well. We do accrual accounting, and I'm just going to throw out a scenario that is kind of my everyday life, which I'm trying to get away from. I have one client who has 6 companies. They commingle funds like nobody's business. They use all companies as their personal account, and so there's a lot of intercompany transactions. I'll give you one scenario that is so common I can't even they will write a check from one company for a down payment on a piece of equipment. They will finish paying for the piece of equipment out of a second company, and then the actual piece of equipment that was purchased actually belongs on a third company altogether.
Oh my gosh.
That's my everyday life. How would you ever price for that? What? Any thoughts at all on that?
They have 6 companies?
6 companies.
6
Yep.
companies. So I think, geez, you know, if I was to use this, I mean, this software is designed really, so just give me a second to think about that. But I think what I would do is I'd be pricing out each company in this software so they get 6 different quotes.
Yes, that is heavily what I'm leaning towards.
Yeah.
But anytime they commingle funds, have intercompany transactions, I mean, they've got the same things going on with all of their debt. They might have $1 million line of credit with, and that line of credit is set up in the name of one of the entities, but they use that line of credit across all 6 companies, and then they pay the interest from all 6 companies. They pay the principal from all 6 companies, and it's like this maze. And I'm kind of leaning towards the cloud pricing software is not going to work for me in that case, because this is just too complicated to try and build into this software.
Yeah.
But that's kind of my problem with the bookkeeping aspect, though, of business at all, because it's just not straightforward like the folks that seem to use bank feeds convey it to be. And
yeah, I agree, and I think I've seen a couple people spend quite a bit of time trying to heavily customize all the price settings for like the 1,000,001 different scenarios, and I think what I'm going to try and do is keep it as simple as possible. So in your particular instance, I would price per company, and one thing that I know, oh my gosh, there's a ton of chats there. So you know that we've created this platform, this bookkeeping automation platform, and one of the things that we're going to build in this summer is the ability to take a transaction in one company and split it out across other company QuickBooks files to make it super easy to put data into multiple QuickBooks databases. That's on it's on our horizon to do in the summer, because we have a couple clients like that too, where it's a nightmare to do intercompany transactions across 3 different clients, especially when it comes to payroll. Everything's got to be broken out by CPP, EI, WCB, payroll taxes. It's crazy. So I'm not sure if I have a good answer to your question, really, Michelle, because the price, I'm going to guess, is going to be so high. And I guess part of the problem too is they've got this huge line of credit, and I'm going to guess it's impossible for them to get appropriate lines of credit for each company. Like to try and create separate lines of credit, bank accounts for each company. I'm guessing, like a lot of business owners, is one company's got a huge line of credit, and then company number 3 needs $100,000, so it's really easy to write a check from one company to another to borrow that money, instead of creating another line of credit with the bank, for company number 3, because that'd be the ideal. I think what I'd like to do is think about that, because I can't. Yeah, change their ways. I'm just going to go through the comments. There's a whole bunch of comments here. Hold on a second. Add to the complication factor.
If only.
Pardon me?
I said, oh, Rudy, if only.
Do you have intercompany premiums? Yeah, you could do that. Change their ways. Yeah, you know what? It's really, I find it's really hard for people to change the way they do things. And I don't think there is a silver bullet for that. Otherwise, there'd be, someone would be a millionaire writing a book on how to get people to change their ways. And it takes a lot of effort and time to convince a business owner to change their ways, especially as it relates to technology. And I know that, like I'm a national tech company, so it's especially people, I'm going to say my age, and I'm going to generalize here. So I'm almost 50. So trying to get 50-year-old people to change their ways and to leverage technology is super difficult. Trying to get people in their 20s and early 30s to change the way they do things with technology is way easier. And I think the only way I can think about it is the only way is there's some comments earlier, I think, from Sarah, and I think what I would do is I'd say, hey, look, you know what, if you somehow using the behavior rewards to try and incent them to change their ways, and if they don't, then you have to have a little add-on to their bill every month because they didn't change their ways. That's the only way I can think about it. So every month they get a reminder, and hopefully you don't get them too upset.
Yeah, I approached that, and I actually got them all to go out and get a separate credit card for every entity. And now they just do it with the credit cards too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, yeah, that is a good question. Because I can understand that too. Like if I had 6 companies, I'd be too ADD-ish to whip out the right credit card for each company. Well, I try and make your life easier, but I know that sometimes I'd make mistakes.
Isn't that why they put the name on the credit card?
Yeah, no, I know. It's just changing habits. Like, for example, I've got 4 kids, so if I was in the grocery store or if I was somewhere and I have some kids with me and there's a problem, I can guarantee you I wouldn't use the right credit card because, you know, I'm just trying to prevent whatever fight from happening. But I think what you brought up is a great point, Michelle, and that is, what can we do to incent people to change their behaviors using this tool, and then what technology is out there to allow them to change their tool. So, you know, if they're not using the credit cards properly, I don't know what to say. I mean, all you can do is penalize them, right? They simply have to pay more money, and then you have to charge them more. So, Michelle, you're charging an hourly rate right now for this client, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, if you were to take a look at the last 2 years of work you've done for the client, would you be able to, like, I know there's an hourly rate. Is there like an average number of hours you spend each month with the client?
It's really erratic because I don't get information on a monthly basis. So all of a sudden there'll be, this is a kind of a new client, and I got them, I think, because the CPA knows that they're a problem child, but they really could use some help. So after we actually get their taxes done, we're going to have a sit down and we're going to go through what they can do to help the cost be reduced. And if they're not going to get on board with streamlining some of the processes so that it doesn't keep landing on my head, I'm actually going to dump them as a client.
Yeah. You know, and how many partners are there in the business? Like, there's 6 companies.
There's the wife who got stuck doing the bookkeeping, who does not have a bookkeeping background. So we originally started out with some training there.
Yeah.
And then her and I were going to do all the work together. It was getting too difficult because it was happening too fast on their end. She couldn't get things uploaded to me fast enough. So she also brought her mom in to help out, and she has no bookkeeping background either.
Oh, no.
And and they're trying to keep up with the husband and the uncle, who are the ones out, you know, spending the money, and they're farmers, so they're notorious for commingling funds anyway.
Yeah. You know what? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. You get the gist of it.
So I think what I would do is that I think what I'd be doing is I'd be working with the wife to say, you know what, here's the deal. Your husband's creating, and your brother-in-law or brother are creating a lot of, or uncle, I guess, are creating a lot of work. And so I'm going to start charging you extra because this is what they're doing. If you can train them with your appropriate negative reinforcement to change their ways, then we can make everyone's lives a lot easier. And maybe you put it on her plate, and that's be something you can talk to her on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, because I know from my own experience, wives are really good at modifying husband's behavior.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's honestly, that's what I would do.
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
and then I'd have some negative, I'd have some financial disincentives, and I'd phrase it in such a way as, I'm not sure what this lady's name is, but I say, you know what, if you can get your husband trained, you will save whatever, $250 a month, and you can go get yourself a spa treatment every month. Like, you know, add a little humor into it, but illustrate a point that, hey, you know what, if you can just change these two individuals' behaviors, you can save a few bucks somehow, and that's more money you can do for whatever you want to do.
Okay. But you don't really see a way to build it into the software here, other than just a percentage maybe of penalty?
Yeah, yeah. So I in the way I would do it is I'd have my bandings are my bandings, like they're set in stone. That's what they are. And then I'm gonna use behavior rewards and optional extras to incur penalties or not on their behaviors. That's all I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna say, if let's just say if you averaged out what the cost would be on a monthly basis, and let's say it's $1,000, I would say, well, going forward, and you've done your taxes now, so we're going to charge you. Let's make it $1,200 for the numbers to be easy. We're going to charge you $100 a month as the base price, like the banding, and then we're going to charge you. I'm sort of making this up, but like $100 per month per intercompany transfer per company. So if I'm doing intercompany transfers to like 6 different companies, then I'm going to charge you an extra $600 a month. And maybe that's too excessive. Maybe it's 50, but that's the way I would build it in. The only problem is then you have to do sort of, there's going to be a base monthly price, and then there's going to be like an add-on, you know, disincentive price on their invoice every month. But at least they'll see it on their invoice saying, hey, you know what, your bill's higher than normal because you didn't listen to your wife, and you did these intercompany transactions and you didn't use the right credit card. So that every month they can see why the bill's higher. So that's how I would do it. So optional extras and behavior rewards.
Okay, that's exactly how I'm going to approach it. And she would be somebody I could sit down with this software with and walk through everything that I've been doing for them so that they completely understand, and then associate it with some sort of tangible price tag.
Yeah.
Yeah. And money talks in their world.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you have the opportunity to, so you're just finishing a year end, right? For the client?
Six more days.
Six more days, and you're finished the year end. Okay, so you do, and is it an annual? Like I call them annual clients. Like they just bring all their paper for the year, and you have to do it all. Is that what's happened here?
Yes, we're working on setting up HubDoc, and we're working on setting up ShareFile, and just so that we can communicate better with the paperwork. I'm looking for an OCR that they can use, but then, you know, that we're getting into training on stuff that's kind of over their head too. So
okay,
that's the apps come into play with this pricing then too. Yeah, it's a complicated one. Probably not the right one to start with as far as what I'm trying to do here with the pricing software, but
well, I think you can though, because you know what you're going to charge for the annual work, right? So you simply divide that by 12. There's your base fee, and then you simply add in intercompany transactions, an extra $100. Not using the right credit card, an extra $100 like per month or whatever it might be, and then you might include in the app saying, like I included, oh shoot, so I included this. I said, and as a default, I'm going to include this for all my clients because I want them to use it, right? And if they don't use it, then I'm going to bump up their price by 5%. So you can do something like that as well. So maybe it's going to be HubDoc. You can say, okay, it's going to be a 5% discount. If you don't start using it, your monthly fees, it's going to be another line item on your invoice, and it's going to be an extra 5% onto your price because you didn't use it. And I think that, I'm sort of making this up as I go, Michelle, but if they see their monthly invoice and they can see these line items for not doing what they're supposed to do, I think it'll constantly reinforce every month that, hey, you know what, you got to change what you're doing.
Okay. Is that Sarah Cross on the call with us? Or who's the Sarah?
I'm not sure if I can, I'm not sure.
Okay. Because I see she's been answering some questions pretty quickly when we get stuck a little bit. So I was wondering if it's Sarah. But anyway, have you tried using a negative here? You
Uh,
know,
Negative percentage?
yeah, or put like a -5 there. Has that worked for you?
I haven't tried that because from my perspective, I'm using a psychology in presenting the price. So for me, it's like express the price. They're going to fall off their chair because they're going to have a heart attack because it's so much higher. Make them feel a little bit better by saying, hey, you can reduce the price by doing these things so they feel a little bit better. And then the last one is, hey, if I lived in a perfect world, what's some extra things you want us to do, which is going to increase the price back up? So I'm going to use the psychology behind the software. That's how I want to try and use it. So I wouldn't use a negative percentage. I'm always going to, because I know they're not going to be happy with the price, right? So I want to, in the second stage, I want to try and make them feel a little bit better. That's how I'm going to do it, though.
Okay. All right. I was just wondering if the negative would work conceptually, though, if they're doing something that your original price settings were based on an assumption, and then they were doing something the opposite of what you actually wanted them to do. An example might be in the payroll module if you want them to do direct deposit because that's the easiest, fastest, best way to do payroll.
Yeah.
Rather than, so if we work in like the paper check concept versus direct deposit, it's a behavior reward one way or the other depending upon what you started with in the price settings.
Yeah. I agree. So I would be putting that in here saying if you don't cut checks anymore and you use bill.com or Telpay or whatever you're going to use, then you're going to get a 5% discount.
Okay.
But then each month I'm going to go in and say like who did what, because this is all part of the quote, right? When you give the quote to the client, it's like, hey, you know what? Here's what we agreed on. And so I then can go back to that quote and say, well, you didn't do these, you didn't do this, and you didn't do this. So you have some extra line items on your invoice this month because you didn't stick to your contract. And they're not.
Have you figured out, oh, sorry.
No, I was going to say.
Have you figured out how to capture exactly what was agreed upon? Because this is a fluid piece of software, meaning the very next client I move on to, I might modify some of this, and how are we going to absolutely remember what the original contract with client 1 was when we're on client 5 and we've modified this software a little bit?
Well, we use Pro Workflow, the enterprise version, as a project management and time tracking solution. So that would be included in there. And probably what I would do is we can create custom fields. I'm not logged in, and honestly, I'd have to get one of my staff to do it. But I'd simply put in there in that Pro Workflow as the main headers, like here's what the clients agreed to do, these 5 things. And so when the staff are doing the bookkeeping work, if they don't do it, they can make a note of it, and then it becomes easy for us to add that onto their bill every month. Does that answer your question?
Yes, but it's kind of outside of this software, right?
Well, so is your question, oh, there's no, like I don't really, I'm not, this is just a quote I look at this as a quote generating system. I don't look at it as a way for me to go and look at a historical quote for a client. It'd be like, you know what, I'm going to have to redo the quote for the client. Or maybe what you could do is, and I'm thinking off the cuff here, Michelle, but if you know a client's notorious for not using the right credit card, you might maybe do the quote for them 3 different times and say, hey, you know what, here's your quote if you do everything you're supposed to do. Here's the things I know you're really bad at, and here's what your price is going to be each month if you don't do the things I tell you to do. That might, and then maybe you give them 2 quotes and you save them as a PDF and upload them to your whatever you're using to track with your clients. We also use Google Drive, so you know all our stuff's in Google Drive for tracking by clients. So depends what you're using for your own how you're going to track all that. So I would generate, I mean, you're going to be capturing a PDF because you need to capture that somehow. Get the client to sign off on it. Maybe do 2 quotes, like maybe one's best case, one's worst case, or something like that, and you can give it to the client, and they'll sign off on the best case, but say, here's the other one if you don't fulfill your obligations. I don't know. I'm just spitballing different ideas, Michelle.
Okay, yep, that's what this is all about, right?
There's a whole bunch more questions. Sorry. You have to redo the contract next year. So.
Oh, absolutely.
And then redo the quote. Okay, you should be able to save the quotes. What if you need to do another quote for a different client and then redo the quote for this one? It does save the quote, but if you finalize the quote, you can no longer edit it. Yeah, so I think you just got to redo it, right? So, you know, if the client's not doing what they're saying they're going to do, I mean, you'll have when you do the quote has all the information that was part of your walkthrough with the client, so you simply just need to replicate that. Like to redo a quote takes all of like 1 minute, and if the client hasn't used like entermyinvoice.com or something like that, then you can simply say, you know, uncheck the checkbox, recalculate the price, send it to the client saying, hey, you know, we went through this, you didn't follow this one, here's what your price is for the month, which is a little bit of manual work, but you know, I'm sure Mark will eventually change it so it can save quotes to make things a little bit easier, but it's just not quite there yet.
So would you maybe name your clients then when you get to this create quote process, would you name the client ABCD, whatever their name is, and then maybe like dash 2015 versus the next time you do a quote dash 2016?
That's a good idea. So you can just append it by year. So it could be ABC client dash 2016.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that.
You know, again, we use Pro Workflow, so it would simply be the latest attachment, maybe the latest quote, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if anyone else has found this helpful, but I find that just talking things aloud sometimes helps out. So I think, Michelle, hopefully you can use the software to play around with coming up with quotes for your client based on them doing things you want them to do. So, for example, like I don't know if they have a scanner. Do they have a scanner?
No.
Okay. Hey there, Matt. Do you want to contribute? So I think one of the things I'm going to do is we recommend all our clients get the IX 500. It's like a $600, well, Canadian, $650 Canadian scanner, and I'm not sure if I can incent them somehow to buy it by giving them maybe I'll give them a discount over a year of 5% if they buy the scanner and scan everything. That might be something I might do, which I'm just going to add that in because I like that idea. Because the Epson IX 500 allows you to create profiles to allow you to scan efficiently, and I can I'll put up on Facebook some videos we've done on some tests we've done over 3 or 4 months with different bookkeepers on how to scan efficiently. So you can scan hundreds or thousands of documents an hour. But again, you pass that information on to your client. You get everything. You just don't want to get any paper, right? You want to be totally digital to make it efficient for yourself.
Yeah, I'm going to work with James on that.
Oh, yeah. So Matt, do you want to add anything there at all, or you happy just to? Well, there's another chat question here. Sounds like a great idea to be able to print the quote with an additional option to include the settings behaviors used for reference later. Well, I think they're in the quote, aren't they?
Is this training on the order then?
Oh, Matt's talking to someone. Nope. If I just go test, and let me just do this. Number of active accounts to I'm going to say 600, professional services, my fixed price. And then they're not going to be happy. Oh, I didn't go to the light. Well, I won't worry about it. I just want to generate the. Just going to add this.
Yeah.
And then buy. So I download it. I haven't changed this, so I need to change this. And here's something else we can potentially do actually together is we can put this up on a Google Doc, and we can have a Canadian version and an American version up on Google Docs, so we can copy and paste and edit. So we're not, we don't have like 50 people creating a Canadian version, which seems like a huge waste of time. We can maybe have a template that people can use and just sort of customize themselves. But in here, where's could have sworn I saw a report where it actually put in all your different options. Am I missing?
Oh,
Michelle?
where you put in the options? Yes, see, I haven't found anything like that yet.
No, in the brochure.
Oh, in the brochure? I haven't customized my brochure yet.
Oh, you clicked on the wrong button. Go back a screen.
Yeah, do you mean like the components, the package components?
Yeah.
Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah. Yeah, Sarah said I've already messed up, and let me, sorry, I'll have to start again. I guess a little bit funky. Doesn't like going back too much. I'm going too fast. There we are. All right. All right, so let's include light. I'll select that. Click on the buy button, then click on the left button for the FPA. Okay, so I'm going to click on this just so I have something. And I'll go a little bit slower. Oh, actually I'm going to take that one out. Oh, shoot. Sorry, I haven't set it up properly for that. But Sarah knows what we're supposed to do. Okay. I've misspelled annually. All right, so buy, and then click on the left button for the FPA. The download report button to this one. Okay. Cloud reporting FPA, auto enrollment. Okay, well, I got the idea. I'm not sure if it's gonna. There you go.
Okay.
So it's all.
So that doesn't necessarily have like the banding that was used or anything like that, but at least it kind of says the overall what we were going to do, right?
Yeah, it's got the optional extra. Let's see, for sales tax capture, monthly payroll, foreign transactions. Yeah, it doesn't have the banding. Huh. You know, I think what I would do is, well, I'm not sure what I would do if this is going to be like a Word doc or something. I simply just add it in. Here's another bullet saying here's what we agreed on, because I think that that's important.
Yes, I agree, because it's going to have to be monitored to an extent.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
And
know,
that's where I think the value pricing tool can help, right? So if you build a client based on a volume of transactions, and you're 6 months into it and you're feeling like you're doing a little bit more work than you normally would, then you can use this tool to do a quick analysis of the last 6 months of transactions and make sure that you're still within the banding amount that you, sorry, it's too hard to read, the banding amount that you were that you originally agreed on, right? So that would potentially help you. So there's unfortunately a bit of manual work involved. I'm going to think about this and see how we can potentially. I know Mark's got, I think he has an internal API. Sorry, API stands for Application Programming Interface. So maybe what we could do is if people are hooked up to our value pricing tool, I don't know. Let me think about this. There's got to be a way to automate this information so people are aware of an increase in volume and transactions.
It would be nice if this value pricing tool here could specifically look at or target a single general ledger chart of accounts. So like if I have a due to from setup in each account, I could see how many transactions are flowing through just that account.
Okay.
That
We could do that.
Okay.
So what we could do is we can create another. So why do you want to do that?
Because those are my problem children and the most time consuming, and that would probably be a large either percentage increase or a banding question of some sort.
Okay, I got it. I got it. Yeah, okay. So maybe what if we did it this way? What if we allowed you to select from a general ledger account and a date range, and then it'll give you the data from that particular general ledger, just that one general ledger account. We could do that fairly easily.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Okay, I'll get the programmers to work on that. We can probably have that done in 2 to 3 weeks. All right. Sarah, no, you've not got all the correct ports set up, John. You might need to go into the reporting tool and restore defaults. I can help you with that. Also, you can cut and paste the FP into Word and further customize. I need to go soon. Yeah, no, I haven't done any of that. So it sounds to me like the reporting tool will do everything we need it to do, and I'm guessing that is Sarah Cross, when I'm sure it's super late over there, 9 o'clock at night. So, but again, the whole point of this, let me get rid of this. Hold on a second. This thing, exit full screen. You can see that you brought up your own sample company just as a test, and we put in the date. Oh, sorry. The whole point of this was just to go over banding, because I thought that was the most important thing to go over, and we sort of, like we always do, we digressed a little bit to different components. So let me just bring up the chat window, open chat window. Okay. So I don't know, I was going to close it off. I mean, it's an hour's gone by. I know it's tax season. Well, the U.S. is like it's the end of this week. In Canada, it's a couple of weeks away. Does anyone have anything, any other questions or thoughts, or they want to bring up, or let me ask you this: what would, like, I'm happy to do this again, but what would you like me to talk about next? And maybe you guys can put it in the Facebook page, maybe, or you can put it here, and then I'm happy to keep doing this. So I know Mark is doing these obviously every month. I'd like to try and speed things up a little bit because I want to start using the software. I'm procrastinating, and I need a kick in the rear end to get up to speed on using the software and actually trying it out. So that's why I just started doing this. And also I wanted to get into the nitty-gritty of trying different scenarios out and seeing what the impact was. So I guess if no one has any other questions, we can call it a morning or a day. What is my contact info? My contact info. I'll just put my email in the chat. And I'm a big fan of, well, I got a whole bunch of email addresses. I'll give you one. Oh my gosh, Michelle, setup, QB desktop, QBO apps, reporting. Okay. Why don't we do, well, I thought this was sort of set up. We did apps last time. I need to do another one in apps which we can participate in. Maybe what we can do is, I want to start using the software. What I'd be interested in doing is the reporting or the contract that comes spit out. So maybe I'll work on creating a template that people can download, like can upload into their own cloud pricing platform. And I'll start with a Google Doc because you can download it as a Word doc, and then you can upload it, and that might be an efficient use of everyone's time. Because I think, for me anyways, I've got some guts together of how to use the software, and honestly, as Sarah pointed out, the reporting's not, the quoting's not right. So that's the next thing I need to work on. But I'm happy to work on other things as well. So I guess that's about it. And I can't even see who's actually, I have to get used to this whole, see who's there. We've got 9 people left. So I'll just put some more posts on Facebook and then some